Hello, this is Matt Harris with Verado, and today on our podcast we have Guy Darter from Darter Specialties. Darter Specialties is in Cheshire, and I'm going to let Guy explain his company. First off, specifically, when did you start? How did you get into, and explain a little bit about the company, what you guys do.
Well, we started 34 years ago out of my garage, and I was a commercial printer at the time, letterheads and envelopes. And then about 5 years into that, I realized that when color copiers came out, that our business was done for.
Yeah.
So we went around, we basically asked all of our customers, so what else do you buy? And they buy apparel and promotional items. So we said, well, that's an easy takeoff. We have the graphic designers, we know what we're doing. We started doing that. And we were probably about 10 years into the business when we started buying all our own equipment, and we did our own silk screening and embroidery.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kept on growing. And we, at that point in time, we were getting into the internet. And our first website, if you look back at it, was very simplistic because that was state of the art back then.
Yeah.
And we kept on evolving, and it's been about 5 years when we met you and started going. It was really when we went from Magento 1 to Magento 2, which is our base for what we use for our front end. And the guys we were using for Magento 1 were going to make the transition over to Magento 2, and we looked you up and found you, and you're local to us, and that was important.
Yeah.
And we met, and we've had a great relationship ever since. And from where we started 5 years ago, we are so far ahead of where we are now. We started with basically one domain name,
Mm-hmm.
and we have now 4. We went from about 70 some odd franchise operations, because that's mainly what we deal with, to we're about 170 now and growing. So we're growing in leaps and bounds. And as we use the technology to help us, we got into NetSuite, which is really our backend, which has worked very, very well to keep track of things and give us an edge over our competition. And we use API and a lot of integration. And I know I'm always pushing for something new and different.
Yeah.
I think outside the box, which helps me. And we look at what the trends are and hopefully get ahead of the trends and basically become a trendsetter in our industry. And it's worked very well.
Yeah.
It has made the process simpler for us, cheaper for us, so it makes us very, very competitive. And our competition that has not developed into these new processes, we're leaving them by the wayside.
Yeah.
Which is very good.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, Guy and I know each other pretty well. We've been working together for a long time. And, Harris Webworks, my agency, he's one of our, most important clients for sure. But the thing that's impressed me with Guy, which is kind of where this falls into what we're trying to do with Verado, is that you were never really afraid to try new things out. As far as you were never satisfied with the status quo. Your business never stayed stationary as long as I've known you. Every year we're trying to do something new. We're moving the needle. And I would say you were also not afraid to partner with somebody like me. Like you were willing to say, I need someone like this to help me. He can do things that we're not going to be able to do very well in-house. And, that was evident right away, I think. And I think the partnership's been really good. But I think that what's impressed me is that, along the way, we've been willing to, work together and try new things out and basically build a system that I feel like is on par with companies that are much, much larger than you.
Yeah.
And maybe better than those.
Yeah. I think in a lot of respects, what we're finding is our companies that are bigger than us, even in our industry or my competitors, can't pivot and move quick enough.
Yeah.
And we have that ability to move quick enough, make the decisions, and we're not afraid to fail and try again.
Right.
I mean, you not everything you do is perfect the first time. And even if you think it's perfect the first time, it keeps on moving, and it keeps on moving, and you sort of got to keep on moving with it.
Yeah.
And that is very evident in our industry. And if you don't keep up with the times, you're getting left behind. And that's the one thing that you've been able to do with us is keep me on the forefront.
Yeah.
And that's important. It's important for companies. And I think a lot of companies don't realize that just because you did it last year one way, you should do it that way again.
Yeah. And I'd say that one of the things that we preach or the message we're trying to get out through the podcast is that small is not necessarily a disadvantage. Small sometimes can be an advantage, particularly when things are changing really fast. Like you can pivot faster.
Yes.
And sometimes your competition, which might have advantages over you in some ways, just in market share, marketing money in general, they can't necessarily evolve as fast and pivot as fast. And I think you and I have had firsthand experience with this. Like we've seen this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it is really the ability to pivot faster than your competition.
Right.
So they're playing catch up to you.
Right.
Even the guys that are bigger are playing catch up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, we forced manufacturers to do API where they weren't doing API in the past.
Yep.
That has helped us tremendously. I mean, we've reduced our operating costs because we handle stuff so less frequently.
Yeah. And so this is a good time. I'm going to pivot into what we're talking about specifically and the systems that we've been working on together for now 5 years and how this works, because I think it's a really good example of how a small business can become a supercharged business and not only grow fast, but take out some of the, compete shoulder to shoulder with some much larger competition. So you do branded apparel for franchises. That's kind of your core. So your ideal client would be a franchise
right.
And that the franchisees would buy their branded apparel from you.
Correct. Branded apparel, promotional items,
Okay.
printing, be able to do social media distribution, and also manuals that they can download from our website.
Right.
So it becomes a one-stop shop for all the franchisors.
Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we built 170 websites. And so a franchisee can go to one of these websites and all the products are already pre-branded. So you're going to see all of your stuff, your shirts, your bags, your hats with your logo on it. You go to that site, you put your stuff in a cart, you check out, and we've built 170 of these.
Right.
And on 4 different domains now.
Yep.
And about to be a 5th soon.
Soon, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I said, we move fast. So these are these are your spools. So this is for the embroidery. There's some pictures we're going to show if you're watching on YouTube. These are your machines that do the embroidery. These are really cool machines. I've been there a bunch of times. You have a handful of these now, right?
Yes, I think we have about 21 machines.
Wow. Yeah. And if you go during business hours, these things are just cranking out. So it's basically a manufacturing process. So all those products on the website, we're going to get into this, those aren't made yet. There's just an example of what they're going to make. The orders come in and they have to get the blanks, which is the product, the shirt without the logo, and they have to put the logos on. And here's some screen printing equipment. And then here's, them shipping. So this is a box in their shipping department. And here's kind of like a flow chart. So we're going to nerd out on this for a little bit, but a minute. But let me explain the real value proposition of what we've built. Imagine it this way. We have 170 different stores with hundreds of SKUs. So you have thousands of variants of products with 3 main suppliers supplying the blanks. Someone can come into one of those 170 web stores, put an order through. A request will be put in to the supplier. through an API call. The supplier will send the blank to your manufacturing facility, and you can start making that product, embroidering that product the next day.
Correct.
And that can all, theoretically, and I think in reality, for a product that doesn't exist, can be put in, and in 48 hours, it can be shipped out the door finished.
That is correct. Right. And by the way, we have 40,000 SKUs.
40,000 SKUs. So there you go. So anyway, the flow chart shows basically if you're an engineer, developer, a web order comes through the 170 sites. And if the item is in stock, this is also a cool thing because he does have some stock on his shelves, right? It'll look to say, is this already on hand? And we can pull from his local stock. If not, you go out to one of the suppliers. So it just checks the different suppliers. The order will say, this is Sanmar, this is Alpha, this is Charles River. And the APIs will go to those 3 different suppliers. The items will then come in from the suppliers. They'll get put into an actual physical bin.
Yep.
And then there'll be basically the instructions on what you're making on a piece of paper. Right. That also comes out of the system that we built. Right?
Comes out of the system. It's our production sheet. It also forms as your packing slip, and it has the label on to go in the box, all in one sheet.
So if I'm working in your factory, I come in the morning, there'll be a bin on my workstation. Someone will put it there, and it says, this is what you're doing.
Correct.
Load the machine up with these logos.
Yep.
These are the blanks. And it's like that person doesn't have to ask a lot of questions. The system says, this is what you're doing right now. Bang it out.
Yep.
Yeah. It's incredible. It really is incredible. So, imagine if you're, starting from scratch, or, just imagine the reality of this is that he's shipping out, dozens of orders a day? Like
about 150 to 200
150 to 200 orders a day. And the day before, none of that inventory was in his warehouse. So he gets shipments in every day, and they have trucks leaving every day.
Correct.
And you've minimized the amount of stock that you have to sit on, which I think we all know with, modern business strategies. Sitting on inventory is like sitting on money.
Right.
Like and it actually depreciates. So like you're actually going to be more profitable the less inventory you have to sit on.
Correct. So like Samar's warehouse that we pull from is 1 million square feet.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that's one of 9.
Wow.
So, we could not hold that in stock for you.
Yeah.
So we've worked out a system with Samar, Alpha, and Charles River that happens.
Yeah.
The stuff we actually keep in stock are items that we can't get overnight or the next day. Yeah. And are used a lot. So certain items we stock, and that's what we bring into our warehouse and stock in our warehouse. So when the stuff comes in, we combine the two and off we go.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And our system tells us, the packing slip or the worksheet tells us exactly where everything is in the warehouse. Mm-hmm. If it's in the warehouse, it has a certain identification. If it's coming from Samar or Alpha, it has different, tells us that it's coming in. So we really know exactly where it is. So we waste no time getting the product together to produce.
Yeah.
And that's all because of the system and how it works.
Yeah. And all the pieces of the systems are now fully integrated. So the web orders and NetSuite, it's all integrated.
Yep.
The APIs are part of the integration.
Yep.
So these systems are all talking to each other. And there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes that people don't have to do manually, which is one of the things that you've been harping on since I met you. It's like, I don't want to do manual work over and over again. This stuff should be automated.
If I have to touch it, I've touched it one too many times.
Yeah. So a little background. This was 5 years ago. This is just a quick illustration of where we came. You had about 70-ish stores, 2 domains, still on Magento 1. You had your suppliers.
That we were manually ordering from.
Wow. I was going to say something. But
we couldn't do that today with the volume.
Oh no,
You
no,
couldn't. That was
no.
my wife actually used to sit there and order from them. That was her entire job every day, was just to order product.
Yeah, yeah. So we got the APIs working. Well, we upgraded to Magento 2.
Yep.
Then we moved everything over to our servers. That's where we really started. So I don't remember where you were, but we moved everything over to our servers. And then we started building more stores, doing the API work, added another domain.
Yep.
This is over the last few years. Added some tax with Avalara to automate your taxes.
Taxes, because we were now getting big enough that we had to pay taxes. We had to collect sales tax in different states
In different ways.
and in different ways.
Yeah.
And so that's where we started getting into Avalara, because the sales tax is such a
It's
rabbit
crazy.
hole.
Yeah.
You couldn't keep up.
No.
So they collected from us. We collected from our customer. They pay it.
Yeah.
Take it off the plate. And again, all automated.
All automated.
We do nothing to pay our sales tax except for, and we don't even take it. They take it out of our account and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a big player. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
If you're in the e-commerce world, you've heard of Avalara. Then we added a brand new domain on Adobe Commerce.
Yes.
And people know Magento and Adobe Commerce are the same core functionality. Adobe Commerce is the commercial functionality, and it's got some B2B components. We needed it for the shared catalog.
Yes.
So that was the BuyMax site,
Yep.
right? And how long did it take us to put that one up? Do you remember?
We were up and running within 3 months. That was
Yeah.
the goal. We
Yeah.
made it.
Yeah. And that was a sprint, I remember.
That was the sprint. 3 months from when we signed the contract with BuyMax. They had a hard deadline of where they needed to be out of there
Mm-hmm.
within 6 months. We needed the site built in 3 months so we could load everything and test it. We met that. We actually were a month ahead of their deadline.
Yeah. And this is an example, I would say, of you guys being stealthy, smart, having a good system in place, and a company like BuyMax, which is what would you call it? Like a conglomeration of franchises. It's like
BuyMax is the purchasing arm for Authority Brands.
Authority Brands, right?
And
So you had a solution that was going to be as competitive as probably some much bigger competition.
right. And we had a complete solution where
Yeah.
beforehand they were with multiple companies
Right.
on different platforms with multiple degrees of success and failures.
Yeah.
And we just put it all underneath one roof for them. Makes the reporting easy, makes their life easy. They know we know what we're doing.
And that was a big win for you guys.
That was a big win for us, and keeps on moving.
Yep. So that was last year, I guess.
Yeah,
Last year.
we went live September 1st of last year.
So we're coming up on a year.
Coming up on a year.
Yeah. And then NetSuite, which was a little bit before BuyMax, I believe.
Yes,
But
a little bit before.
that was a big project. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
If anyone's been through, I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, digital transformation work or an ERP upgrade, it's not easy.
No, and we were coming from a very old system,
Yeah.
very limited system that was really made for very small businesses.
Yeah.
That-
Desktop.
Desktop.
Desktop software,
We
yeah.
were just maxed out there to the world.
Yeah.
It couldn't do 90% of what we needed. We couldn't get any report. The reports just weren't running.
Yeah.
We were probably 5 years behind doing something on it. But our accounting department was familiar with it, and it wasn't. We were doing so much on the front end that we just really didn't address that
Yeah.
until they basically were no longer going to support the project on their project on Apple computers,
Yeah.
on Macs.
And I would say that we would both admit, you and me both would admit that project was bigger than we thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From day one.
Yeah.
And continues.
Yeah.
And continues.
Yeah. But that being said, I think we've seen a lot of efficiencies gains because it's in place now.
That's right.
A lot and better and better data, better reporting.
That's right. We
Like
don't.
you can see inside your business much better than you could before.
Yes, we didn't eliminate. We just never hired the extra person we would need to do this volume just on the accounting end.
Right.
And yes, the efficiency's there, but the real strength of it is the reporting I can get out of it. And again, the seamlessness of moving my orders through the system, where NetSuite sends out the email saying this stuff was shipped the second we ship it.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait till that night to upload it.
We're doing the packing slips out of there now too, right?
We're doing everything, right? We moved a lot from Magento to NetSuite, where really Magento is just a dumb front end at this point.
Yeah, it's an order taking
system.
front end, yeah.
And it's worked great.
Yeah.
We like any time when you make a conversion, you're coming out of, well, this is the way we used to do it. And, my bookkeeper's been with me 32 years now.
Yeah.
She's done it one way for 30 of those years.
Bookkeepers don't like to change the way
and
they
it makes a hard change. And same with our order department and everything else was, well, this is the way we used to do it, and it's not the way you do it again.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the hardest part of a conversion, but you got to do it.
The training of the people.
The training of the people is the hardest part.
Oh, and you have some funds from the state to do some of the training too.
We've gotten some grant money to help do some of the training and some of the changeover. Yeah, absolutely, because we're a manufacturer,
right?
And that has helped.
Yeah.
The state has been a very good partner with us in especially on the manufacturing end of the equipment and technology, and they've done great with us.
That's one thing I'd like to emphasize is that if you're a manufacturer in the state of Connecticut, there are funds available for you to upgrade your systems and train your people on those upgraded systems.
And also cross-train people on jobs.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of, Connecticut has been very strong in the way of helping manufacturers.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very much all in on trying to grow the manufacturing base. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of manufacturing in Connecticut, a lot of small manufacturers in Connecticut, and then there's also kind of the military industrial supply chain stuff that goes on because of some of the larger companies here.
But a lot of those large companies, there's hundreds of small manufacturers supporting them.
Yeah.
So
there's
that's
4,200 manufacturers in the state, which is
growing.
Amazing. Yeah, and growing. Yeah. And there's a lot of reshoring going on too. So I think manufacturing is growing in the state. One thing I want to say, going back to NetSuite real quick, is there anything that before we had started, is there anything, except the obvious, is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have known when we started?
I think the scope of the how much time it would take to do the conversion and do it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, from my perspective, if us as a company planned it better, laid it out more as a flow chart, and not taking assumptions of, well, that's obvious.
Yeah, or this is going to be easy.
Or, right.
Yeah.
Or it's more the obvious of like,
right.
Okay, that's just like common sense. Well, there's no common sense when you do a conversion.
Yeah.
You got to spell out that common sense, because the people who, you guys from your people don't know our business well enough, or any business, why would you, to get into the nitty gritty that, okay, that has to be in that spot for a reason.
Yep.
And this has to be there. Yep. And this is what we need. So I think that the flow chart we could have done better on our end.
Yeah, and definitely we could have done. Yeah, we could have done a lot better. I mean, if you research ERP implementations, 60% fail, which is crazy. That's a crazy number, and part of it is managing expectations and time frames, but also planning it out thoroughly ahead of time, which no one wants to do, right? No one wants to plan it out thoroughly because it costs money,
right?
And it takes time, and it feels like you're not getting anywhere, which is, so I think it like from my end, in retrospect, I think more wartime planning. But there's other reasons that 60% is there, the 60% fail rate. And I think it's because the technology companies aren't doing the implementations and they're the ones selling the software. So they'll sell you the software and not tell you this is a really heavy lift to get it fully implemented. Well, I think that's where a lot of the failures come from.
I mean, I think now as we make as we're making additions to NetSuite, which we are, okay, our expectations are different, or more realistic. Okay, we spell it out better. So and then also your team now knows us a little bit better. So we get into some of the new ones. One of the new ones I talked to your team about yesterday was the fact that we got to come up with a solution to handle how we figure out shipping and duty crossing into Canada. Okay. We're doing too much business in Canada to be doing it the way we're doing it. And so that's our new task.
But there's also these like shipping triage centers, right? Where you can, we'll talk about this later. But it's like, there's ways to solve the problem. I know about this issue. Like it gets complicated. But this is the part about NetSuite is that like, as hard as that implementation process was, and as time consuming and as expensive as it was, every year after this year, or after that initial implementation does, you're going to see more gains and more value, I think, in that system.
Absolutely.
So it was an investment, but I would say not just in the efficiency of your business. So that's going to be a financial gain, I think, but just the assessment of the business.
Yes.
So if an outside third party was going to assess the value of your business, I would say it's worth more because you have NetSuite already done.
Absolutely.
Right. Like, so a potential buyer is like, well, that's part's done.
Right.
And NetSuite, and they should know, if they're smart buyers, that that's a big project and expensive and disruptive. So, I'd say the evaluation is probably higher than it would have been.
Absolutely.
So in terms of like you as a business owner, that's also how you could justify that investment.
Right.
Is that not only am I going to get an efficiency gain, my business is going to be a little smarter. I'll be able to see in my business more. But if I ever wanted to sell the business, not saying you do, but I think you might get a higher margin.
I could on that. The thing that I like the best about it is some of our bigger customers that we're going after like the fact that we're on NetSuite.
Yep.
It shows one or two things. One, we're not stagnant in the industry. And two, they are on NetSuite. So they are looking for reports that they can get through our system.
And they're familiar with those reports.
And they're
already.
familiar with the reports. So that is a selling point. When we talk to new customers, we talk to them the fact that we do Magento on the front end and NetSuite on the back end. And I'm surprised at the response we get. It's usually a positive response. Oh, yeah, we do that. Even some of our suppliers have switched over to NetSuite, not because of us, but because they're switching over to NetSuite has made implementation easier. Because they're on the same platform.
And I think the perception in the world, like for medium to bigger businesses, is that the smaller mom and pop shops, not that you're a small mom and pop shop, but the risk of going into business with a smaller business as a partner is that they're just going to be inefficient and kind of like not up to date. They won't be able to integrate with your systems. So there's like a lack of sophistication because they're small. That's the perception.
That is the perception. And this gets over that perception a little bit, but it's also gives us the power, the streamlining of our operation because of our systems makes us super competitive. And that's the plus. You want to be competitive. You need to keep on moving forward in technology because technology is the key.
You're singing my song. I'm glad you said it because that's what we've been preaching. But I've never really had to convince you of that. You were always open to that from the very beginning, and I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
I think the end result, is I think both businesses have benefited from the relationship. I know mine has, and I think
absolutely.
I think yours has too.
Absolutely. I could not be where I am without these products implemented.
I think that's probably a good way to end it. All right. Excellent. Well, hey, so this is Matt Harris signing off. This is Verado. Again, Guy Darter, Darter Specialties. If you want to know more about his company, it's darterspecialties.com.
Correct.
Cheshire, Connecticut. He does an amazing business. He's got very, very, very happy customers. So if you're a franchise out there that's looking to have one-stop shopping for all of your swag needs, reach out to him, and catch us on Verado in our next podcast. And thanks for listening.